All right. LAO, we'll start with you, if you don't mind.
So this is an issue that was heard in a hearing a few weeks ago. Just to summarize, grouped in this item are a few different proposals, one related to implementing the short-lived climate pollutant strategy, also requests for resources related to implementing new advanced clean cars standards and clean bus and truck standards. Our recommendation on this issue we provided again in the previous hearing, so I'll summarize it just very quickly. We had some concerns about some of the resources and the primary justification for some of the resources being achieving the governor's post-2020 goals, and we have concerns about some of those activities going beyond what statutory direction provides. As a secondary issue, we also raised some concerns about some of the positions being related to non-greenhouse gas activities, and as originally proposed, the fund source was the cost of implementation account, and so we recommended perhaps looking for a different fund source for those positions, and your staff recommendation recommends altering the fund source for all of the requested positions.
All right. We have a motion in front of us. Are there any comments? Senator Nunes.
Madam Chair, I just have to reiterate, and we brought it up in the hearing before, that we have a legislative council opinion on all points that the governor is exceeding his executive authority, and the analyst has also raised doubts about that. So as we proceed with the budget building on these assumptions, I think we're creating a huge problem. There is a huge legal dark cloud hovering over this, and proceeding, I think that that's not the way to go.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Christine Casey, Department of Finance.
Yep.
Although there was a recommendation, an LAO recommendation several weeks ago regarding these proposals, it is slightly different. So Finance has not had time at this point to review using the Vehicle Inspection Repair Fund for all of these activities, and are not sure if it's an appropriate and eligible use for the expenditures.
All right. Well, this will move forward to conference and to be worked out there. Public comment? Come forward.
Madam Chair, members, Ed Manning with KP Public Affairs on behalf of Western United Dairymen. A couple important points here. Senator Lara authored SB 605, and in that bill, he gave ARB authority to prepare a plan. But if you look at the legislative history, the words implement were struck from that bill, and they were only given authority to do a plan. That plan is now pending before the Air Resources Board. The request for funding is to implement the plan. There is no legal authority for them to implement the plan, and the Ledge Council just opined that the only authority ARB has is under AB 32 to get to 1990 levels by 2020. This is separate and apart from that program and is an attempt to regulate beyond 2020 for certain pollutants under essentially a new program created by executive order. So for those reasons, we oppose the funding. We think you should withhold funding, and until the legislature enacts, Senator Lara's got a bill pending, 1383, that would grant that authority. We don't believe you can fund a program for which there is no legislative authority until there is authority, and only you can grant that authority. So for those reasons, we oppose. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Next, please.
Gene Urban, I represent Waste Management. My concerns are very similar to Mr. Manning's, but specifically, in 2014, we negotiated with Mr. Chesborough to achieve 50% diversion of organics from landfills by 2020. In spite of that clear statutory directive, CARB has proposed 75% diversion by 2020 and essentially a ban of all organics from landfills by 2025. It's contrary to the statutory provisions which we supported in 2014 and for which you voted. It's contrary to the authority not granted by AB 32. And to date, CARB has largely ignored any efforts to reconcile the proposed plan with the statutory provisions of the Chesborough bill. It's frustrating, it's illegal, it's not helpful, and it's unproductive. So we're opposed to item 2. We believe the plan should be a plan and not contain any regulatory authority or any implementing authority until such time as you have given them the express authority to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Good morning. Anthony Molina on behalf of the California Manufacturers and Technology Association. CMTA supports the LAO recommendations to reject requests related to long-term GHG planning and short-lived climate pollutants implementation. We also support identifying funding other than the COA.
Thank you very much. Next, please.
Madam Chair, Mark Fenstermaker on behalf of Environmental Defense Fund. We are in support of the proposals from ARB. We believe that they are operating within their existing authority, and we believe that the work that would be facilitated by this proposal is very needed for our short-term and long-term well-being for California. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Amy Mago on behalf of the California Chamber of Commerce. I would like to associate my comments with those of the dairymen as well as waste management. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Kevin Messner, I represent the Association of Home Appliance Manufacturers. We oppose the the short-lived climate pollutant plan funding. Just wanted to give a couple reasons. Each one individually probably should be enough to not fund this. One is the plan's not even done. So you'd be funding something that's not even done. That's essentially just a blank check to CARB to do whatever they want, because then they could do finalize the plan afterwards. The second thing is EPA is already acting in a lot of these areas already nationally, and Obama administration will be ending by the end of the year. If things don't work out exactly as you want, you can come back next year with a plan completed, and then talk about how to funding of that. So there's a lot of budget resource needs here, and it's probably not the best idea to have a slush fund for a plan that's not even developed. So we'd oppose it. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. Doug Subers on behalf of the Western States Petroleum Association. We're also concerned with issue 1 and associate ourselves with the previous comments.
Thank you very much. Next, please.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members. Matthew Allen, representing Western Growers Association. We'd like to associate our comments with those made by Mr. Manning.
Next, please.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Lauren Noland-Hajic on behalf of California Dairies, Inc. For the reasons stated by Mr. Manning, we are also opposed. Thank you.
Next, please.
Dennis Albiani on behalf of California Grain and Feed Association. We have concerns that were stated earlier, but we also like to add that none of the protections that were heavily negotiated in AB 32, such as minimizing leakage or trying to have feasibility, those are in this plan, and so those are issues that need to be included in any implementation of the plan. If we do create leakage, we actually could be increasing, as all of you know, GHGs under this program if jobs, and losing the jobs if they move out of state. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We have a motion in front of us to approve with the following changes. Shift the funding to the APCF for the short-lived climate pollutant approach. Add budget bill language requiring ARB to adopt the plan prior to expenditure of funds, and then shift funding to the Vehicle Inspection Repair Fund for the remaining 2 proposals on a one-time basis. Is there a motion? So moved. It's been moved by Senator Pavley. Please call the roll.
Senator Wolk?
Aye.
Senator Nielsen? No. Senator Pavley?
Aye. It is 2-1 that those items are passed. Issue number... Nothing yet. Nothing yet. No, they're missing. All right, motor vehicle insurance account assessment, the MVIA. All right, who's on?
Mr. Corey, maybe? Or LAO? Or?
I'm sorry.
LAO, who's speaking to this? DGS? Yeah?
Yes, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear.
Oh.
As stated, this request is for a one-time expenditure authority of approximately $2 million from the Air Pollution Control Fund to reimburse the Department of General Services, Office of Risk and Insurance Management for a payment associated with a traffic accident that occurred in 2011. The judgment was approximately $10 million, and ARB has been making ongoing payments to DGS since 2012 of approximately $1 million a year. However, in the 16-17 fiscal year, ARB has been asked to pay $3.6 million as a final payment to this settlement. ARB has set aside $1.5 million, but cannot absorb the additional $2 million required. As for the funding source, the Air Pollution Control Fund was selected because it funds the program where the employee works. However, because we did not want to tap a fee-payer-supported fund, the penalty sub-account was selected. This is the only non-fee-supported account in ARB. The only alternative fund is the general fund, and ARB receives no appropriations from the general fund. And finally, I wanted to note that for the committee, that this is ARB's first major accident that required this level of payment. We take every precaution and safety measure with our staff to ensure the safety of ourselves and the public. Thank you.
All right, the recommendation to us is to approve the proposal, but also to recommend that you report at budget hearings in 2017. We need some kind of plan to address future insurance claims. We hope this is the last one that's that large. Heavens. But there should be none that even approach that level of, well, whatever it was, either injury or culpability, perhaps. I'm not sure. But the state is on the hook for this. All right, further, Senator Nielsen.
Well, I'll note the first $8 million of this suit was funded from special funds, and that's clearly a violation of Prop 26. How would you explain that to the citizens of California?
For the payment, we consult with both our attorneys and the AG, and my understanding was it was completely appropriate. And for further, I would have to draw on those folks for follow-up.
Okay, I guess that's subject to legal interpretation, but mine doesn't concur with that.
All right, we have a motion.
Yes.
All
You'd
right.
like to move that item?
All right, please, public comment. Public comment. Please call the roll.
Senator Wolf?
Aye.
Senator Nielsen? No. Senator Pavley? Aye.
All right, that passes 2-1. Third issue, Specialty Equipment Market Association, proposed fee.
We looked at the staff analysis, which made reference to a proposal, an incomplete proposal advanced by the Specialty Equipment Market Association. Basically, it was seeking a process to expedite the processing of aftermarket parts. So these are parts that are brought to ARB that go on an in-use vehicle, and they need to be evaluated, tested, and so on to confirm they don't adversely impact emissions. So the concern was the processing time, and they had some suggestions on how to expedite that time, potentially generating a fee-based program. And I think the recommendation of staff that we looked at was not completely ripe, but there was some merit there, and a request of us to work with SEMA. We actually have a very good working relationship with them and are committed to do that.
Right, I don't think that requires a motion. The suggestion is no, we're not taking any action, and proceed as you would. All right, the State Water Resources Control Board, Public Water System Consolidation. Heavens. Mr. Howard, you're on.
Good afternoon, Senators. Thank you. This is part of the human right to water that the State Water Resources Control Board is trying to implement. Last year, the legislature gave us authority to require consolidation with a number of caveats, including ensuring the financial and legal protections for the community that's taking the water system on. At the time, the legislation said that it would apply to unincorporated areas. We have been moving forward. We've got one consolidation completed. We have a whole series of other ones where we're working with the communities. However, one of the first things I asked my staff was, well, what's the lowest hanging fruit out there that we can move quickly on to get some success stories as quickly as possible? And it turned out that all the low-hanging fruit, or almost all of it, was sitting in incorporated areas, mostly small mobile home parks and that sort of thing, where they'd been serving poor, unacceptable drinking water for a long time, and they have a main right beside them. But in many cases, it's because the mobile home park owners think they can provide cheaper water to their customers, even if it's unsafe. So we are requesting, the administration is requesting authority to extend that consolidation authority with all the same legal and financial protections for the public water systems to incorporated areas as well, so that we could consolidate as much as possible. Our assessment is consolidation is the #1 way to most successfully achieve the human right to water.
Right. This is a very important area, one that needs to move forward. And it's always amazing to me as someone who's legislated in this area, how many there are incorporated cities in which there are, as you describe them, a donut hole, often more than one, which makes no sense on a planning basis, on a public health basis, on any basis, frankly. So I really, how many are you doing? You said there, how many of these consolidations is the board currently working on?
Well, like I said, we've completed one. We have 7 that we're working with very closely right now and told them that they are subject to consolidation, but we're giving them the 6-month period to look over and try and develop something voluntarily before we step in. But I think we have at least 50 or so that we've targeted. We have presently approved a BCP for this year to put 2 more people on this work, and we'll be able to move a lot more of these in the near future.
Well, full speed ahead, full speed ahead. So the staff recommendation is to concur with the need and to approve the proposal in order for the legislature and public to review the proposed language, which will be published on the DOF website through the conference committee. So with that, all right, would you move that? Yes. All right, moved by Senator Pavley, and we have public comment.
Madam Chair, Senators Jack Walco on behalf of the City of Fresno and the Kings River Interest.
Yes.
And when you talk about donut holes, immediately Fresno comes to mind.
Not only, yeah.
You received a letter from Mayor Swearingen related to your SB 13
and a visit.
Expressing some concerns, and I think our preferred approach would be that we continue to have those discussions in the context of your measure, Madam Chair, as opposed to approaching it in a trailer bill, because we've been frequent attendees at your stakeholder meetings, and we'd like to continue to provide our input there. Thank you very much.
I think all of these efforts are complementary, not contradictory, and probably needed, both in the land use area and the enforcement area. So.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mark Fenstermaker on behalf of the Sonoma County Water Agency. Really appreciate the staff's approach, allowing for public review during conference. We're having our county council look at it just to make sure there are no unintended consequences on water wholesalers, which is what our agency is. So with that, look forward to working with staff as this moves through conference.
Welcome.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Wendy Ritterbusch with the Association of California Water Agencies. We were opposed last year to SB 88, and I think at that time we argued that this important policy issue shouldn't be what we felt inappropriately stuffed into a budget trailer bill vehicle when it wasn't part of the budget. And we again feel the need to go on record opposing this relatively non-transparent, and real expedited method of delivery. We much prefer your vehicle 522. We feel like that's a much better way to go. It gives stakeholders much more of an input. And as you recall, the Brown administration really talked about the need for transparency while implementing the California Water Action Plan. And we just feel that budget trailer bills have not historically been role models for transparency. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any further public comment? Mr. Howard, you mentioned that there are about 50 that you're looking at. Is there a way that I can get a copy of that list?
Yes, we'll get you a copy of all the ones we're aware of that look like good candidates for consolidation.
That's a number that's even higher than I thought, so I'm very curious about that. All right, thank you. So we have a motion.
So moved.
All right, please call the roll.
Senator Wolf?
Aye.
Senator Nielsen? Senator Pavley?
Aye.
All right, that passes 2-1. All right, drinking water program expenditure cap.
Yes, last year, well, 2 years ago almost now, the drinking water program was moved from the Department of Public Health to the State Water Resources Control Board. At that time, a statutory cap was put on our 2016-17 budget, and that was a cap of $30 million. Unfortunately, and I apologize for this, we thought that was more than adequate at the time. But we continued to be working with the Department of Public Health to get a full accounting of the entire budget for the drinking water program. And it's very unfortunate that, in fact, we didn't have that at the time this cap was proposed and established. I think probably the best illustration of how we were sort of blindsided is the fact that ultimately the 2015-16 budget for the drinking water program is presently at $35 million, and yet this is a cap of, for 2016-17 budget year of $30 million. You know, we basically, if we were to receive no increases in terms of salary increases, pro rata, and the couple of the BCPs that have already been approved by, or at least if they're not approved, they're at least in conference, that we would still have, you know, not be able to meet the budget with that cap. We would need at least the $35 million that we expended this year. So again, my apologies. This was an error on the part of the administration in putting together the budget for this program, and we're trying to correct that at this point.
All right, thank you for your directness and honesty on those issues. It's a good request. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
All right, we have public comment. Come forward.
Hi, good afternoon, Madam Chair, members. Glenn Farrell, San Diego County Water Authority. We're supportive of the drinking water expenditure cap as we advocated for its inclusion in SB 83 last year. And we acknowledge the necessity of the correction and that's before you today, and we don't have any opposition to that correction. However, we do want to raise an issue in the context of this, this budget request in front of you. You know, to avoid any disproportionate impact on the larger public water systems with respect to the fee program, we would encourage your consideration of some mechanism, maybe it's budget control language, something that would ensure that the fees charged to the public water systems under this program are no more than necessary to cover the state water board's reasonable costs of regulatory oversight, and that the manner in which the fees are allocated to public water systems bear a fair, reasonable relationship to the public water system's burdens on the system or benefits from the system. Basically, language that would be consistent and compliant with Prop 26. Thank you.
Welcome.
Good morning, Wendy Ritterbush again with the Association of California Water Agencies. ACWA advocated last year for the inclusion of the current cap in the program, and we agree that there was a problem with that figure that was inserted last year, and we're not opposed to the correction, but we do have two larger notes of caution. Last year, the administration opposed the continued inclusion of a program cap, and we hope that they're not planning to come back next year or subsequent years with a proposal to change the cap again, which would basically circumvent the original purpose and intent of the cap. We also continue to be concerned on the regulatory side that if the Water Board imposes this particular proposed fee structure, that the largest public water systems in California are going to, and their customers, are going to shoulder unreasonable fee increases of over 1,000%. 1000. We want to continue to work with the Water Board to ensure that any new fee structure is fair and reasonable and consistent with Prop 26. Thanks.
All right, thank you. We have a motion. Please call the roll.
Senator Wolk?
Aye.
Senator Nielsen? Senator Pavley?
Aye.
All right, that passes 2-1. Moving on to our last two issues. First, resources recycling and recovery, CalRecycle. We have a pilot program proposal. All right, we're looking at 3 possible pilots. So who's on? Kaleo?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ashley Ames with the Analyst Office again. The proposal is to allow up to 3 jurisdictions to create a convenience pilot program that would waive the convenience requirements. This is in response to the recent convenience zone recycling center closures, and the convenience zones are the ones that are located within a certain distance of supermarkets. This is problematic. These closures are problematic because when they close, it makes it more difficult for consumers to be able to bring their containers back and collect their deposit. And so this proposal would allow 3 pilots, would sunset in June of 2020, and it would also provide $100,000 per jurisdiction in the pilot program. We haven't analyzed this specific proposal, but we did recommend doing a pilot project related to handling fees in our beverage container recycling report that was published last year. We also identified a pilot as an option in order to help address these closures in a web post that we put on our website Monday.
All right. Any questions? All right, we have recommended approval of the convenience zone pilot program, which would allow up to 3 jurisdictions to create a convenience pilot program in this area. So we hope it is successful. Is there a motion?
So moved.
All right, public comment? Welcome.
Thank you, Chair and members. Jason Schmelzer here on behalf of the City and County of San Francisco. Obviously, think the pilot would do a great job of informing the broader reform effort and fully support the staff recommendation, and also just really appreciate the hard work that your staff has done on this item. They've been great to work with, so thank you.
Welcome.
Teresa Bowie with Californians Against Waste. I just want to thank Senator Wolk and staff for your attention to this important issue, and we fully support staff's recommendation. Thank you.
All right. Welcome.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Louis Brown on behalf of the California Grocers Association in support of the staff recommendation. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We have a motion. Please call the roll.
Senator Wolk?
Aye.
Senator Nielsen? Aye. Senator Pavley?
Aye.
3-0, that is supported. Pest prevention funding, Department of Food and Ag. All right. Guzon. Welcome. All right, let's get these pests taken care of. Who's on?
Sean Martin with the Legislative Analyst's Office.
Okay.
I can present the proposal.
Yes.
So the proposal to increase resources for the plant health and pest prevention by $15 million would be through budget bill language that would include $5 million that may be used for Pierce's disease management, $5 million that may be used for overall pest health and pest prevention, and $5 million that shall be used for the Asian citrus psyllid control as follows: $4.25 million for residential application of California Department of Food and Agriculture in quarantine areas, and then $750,000 for an interagency agreement with the California Department of Pesticide Regulation.
All right, that is the proposal. Is there a comment from the ag folks? DP.
Yeah, I mean, this is a proposal that's generated from the legislature. This is not part of the governor's proposal. You know, I think as a general statement, you know, I think we would probably want to know more about the restrictions on the use of the funds, and you know, I mean, I'll leave it to DPR. Generally, it's the Department of Pesticide Regulation that handles these types of studies. So, trying to better understand what the study's trying to get at. You know, getting more information is always a good thing, and so you know, we just sort of probably like to work with the committee staff more to understand what the expectations of the committee are.
All right, thank you. Public comment. Welcome.
Madam Chair, Senators, Jack Walko on behalf of the California Association of Wine Grape Growers. We're in support of the members' letter request and the proposal pending in front of you. There's a tremendous number of additional fines related to Pierce's disease in both Kern County and now the North Coast. So having the state reinvest like it did prior to the Great Recession would be very much appreciated. So we're standing in support of this proposal.
Thank you. And I believe the $15 million is consistent with the legislative letter. Thank you. Welcome.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Louis Brown on behalf of the California Citrus Mutual. In multiple positions right now. One, very, very supportive of the allocation and appreciate staff and the members of the committee recognizing the need for the state to step forward and invest in this program. The California citrus industry has been assessing itself for the last 5+ years, and actually have created over $60 million that our industry has invested into a program, education and outreach of consumers, as well as control, biological control, and chemical control of this pest. And we've been somewhat successful, although we've not eradicated the pest, and we still have HLB in the state of California. There have been 22 fines of HLB in the greater Los Angeles area. And when that happens, a quarantine is created by the Department of Food and Agriculture. It is at that time, and really only at that time, that CDFA or this committee that's been created by legislation performs any type of applications. And so where we start to ask some questions is the control language. 75% of this money or so would be restricted to residential applications by CDFA. We don't believe that they do that, or nearly that amount of money would be spent in that area. Now, what we've been talking about over the last few years is that since the significant issue that we have is in the urban areas, we do agree with and believe that any state money that's invested in this program should be focused on the urban areas, whether that is in applications that need to take place, whether that's education and outreach to consumers about different practices. But we think that at least what we read in this summary, the restrictive nature of that language would not allow us to effectively utilize that money for the advancement of the program, and would more than likely go unspent, because it's only in those very limited situations of an HLB find and a quarantine where CDFA may step in and do some applications. Then in regard to the $750,000, we're not sure that, one, this is necessary. DPR is currently going through a reevaluation of this entire class of products. And part of that reevaluation is to look at the ornamental uses and to look at the impacts on pests, the environment, workers, et cetera. And so this part of it is new to us. If in fact it's necessary, then our next question would be why out of the citrus portion of the $15 million, since neonicotinoids are used in a wide variety of agricultural products throughout the state. And so we would like to continue to work with committee and staff on what this ultimately looks like, but would ask that you take those concerns into consideration as we move forward. Again, appreciate your interest in this and the agendizing of the state's investment in this program. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Paul Towers with Pesticide Action Network, or PAN, and Be Smart California. It's rare that Mr. Brown and I agree on so many things, but I want to voice support for this proposal that's put forth. I think we agree in large part with the need to address many of the pest threats that face the state of California, that prevention, biological controls, these should be many of the things that we put forward first. In terms of the specific proposal, we've heard time and time again that backyard citrus is the sort of emerging point for the threat of Asian citrus psyllid and the citrus greening disease, and I think thus the focus on putting so much attention and state resources in that place. I think we'd continue to support a broad suite of options beyond pesticide applications in backyards, biological controls, consumer education, these sorts of activities, rather than relying strictly on application. And I think overall, we're excited to see some cooperation between CDFA and DPR with respect to pesticides and looking at ornamental use. It's rare that we see such coordination around a lot of pesticide products, and I think it's a necessary step. Neonics there's been a tremendous amount of attention to the use. Ornamental use, we've often seen from studies, is some of the greatest, the area for the greatest amount of use and the greatest sort of harm levels have been found in ornamental use given certain surveys and studies. And so thus the need to put an increased amount of attention and focus there, particularly for both managed bees and wild pollinators. So we're excited by this proposal. We wish to see it forward, and we'd offer that we look at expanding beyond just restrictions or prescriptions on applications for the department, but allow the department some space to look at broader control mechanisms for citrus psyllid. Thanks.
All right, thank you. And last?
Dennis Albiani on behalf of the California Seed Association. We were just commenting on the $750,000 on the interagency agreement. Just trying to get a little bit more clarification. So as that moves forward, I'd like to get a little bit more clarification on what the the impacts of neonicotinoids-treated seed and plants at retail level means, and would that include both the positive attributes that a healthy seed creates a healthier plant that can fight off diseases and pests, things like that. So it will be both sides, the positives and some of the impacts as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, we have a staff recommendation in front of us. Is there a motion?
So moved.
All right, it's been moved. Please call the roll.
Senator Wolk?
Aye.
Senator Nielsen? Senator Pavley?
Aye.
All right, 2-0 with 1 abstention. That passes. All right, I believe that is it. Yes. All right, I just want to make one comment since this, to have another. No, I don't think so. I think we've completed our work. I want to thank my colleagues and staff for a
Madam Chair,
well-oiled machine. Who? What?
Sorry about that.
Yes, ma'am.
Wanted to, this is Lena Ramos with the Department of Finance, and sorry if I missed my opportunity earlier. I just wanted to note that Finance doesn't have a position on the specifics of the
you're talking about
proposal. Yes, correct.
I thought you were going to thank the committee for extraordinary efforts, even though we didn't listen to you enough.
Yeah. So while we are opposed to material general fund augmentation,
we understand
because it's not included in the governor's budget proposal, we do note that we can't comment on the specifics of that.
Okay. I would just like to close out by saying, once again, to thank my colleagues and the staff and the LAO and finance and all the departments for their energetic activity and dedication, frankly, to lots of, we have an extraordinary agenda when you think about it. It's broad and deep, and there are a lot of different areas, so thank you for that. Thank you to my colleagues.
Senator Pavlik, pleasure working with you.
Yeah.